I've been working with the YY subject. It was a subject, and I explored that. And as I began to paint, I realized subject matter is a terribly important thing. It isn't a question anymore of learning to paint, learning about color. It's a question of saying something. I stopped painting in '82 after an exhibition at the JFK Library. I realized then, having just come back from art school, I had the training of art school. I was working a lot from the model, and I really sort of had exhausted that subject. Having come out here now, there's plenty of light and plenty of color, and it affected me personally. Because my work in England was all in black and white, and so having come over here, I now had to find a subject to paint. Then I realized I just realized that I could not paint in '82. I stopped painting. What next to do was the big question. In '85, I got a chance to go up to the YYs in the Upper Essequibo, and there was my subject. What I was seeing there, what I was experiencing there, was a revelation to me. And so now there was a subject. It gave me a chance now to paint and to learn to paint. I started the YYs, and from the YY subject matter, I moved into the artifacts. It was a natural progression. I felt I did not exhaust the subject, and I thought I'd move from one thing to the next, gradually moving into the YY artifacts and so on. I was still learning how to paint. I did one of my academic paintings, or a couple of them, would have been done in grays altogether, like a black and white photograph, and then add color to them. But those are the kinds of things that I would have done with the early YY series. To explore ideas with techniques is the way that I was trained. I had to use the printmaking technique with like using acid to bite into a plate and to get an imagery from what the acid is doing to the plate. In the same way that I've extended that into the canvas, where I could do anything with a canvas. There's some very peculiar things that I do. I just mentioned that I've been pouring canvas water onto the canvas, but then sometimes I wash it off again. I sometimes wash the painting right back with a very hard brush and see what happens, and I start again and build from that. I was fortunate recently when I was in England. I had several discussions with Wilson Harris. He had come to see my work, and he was very interested in me as an individual and trying to understand how I'm working. Because it is sympathetic to the way he is thinking as well. We were discussing things like born fruits and things like that, and the spirituality, you know, and of indigenous peoples and that kind of thing. And with his encouragement, I think I'm on an interesting subject and trying to explore this spirituality in myself. Indirectly, what I'm doing is to reaffirm the Amerindian people of their heritage, of the rich heritage that which, you know, they're not looking at the spirituality, the spiritual aspect. Interesting enough, there's this big talk about the rainforests, and I look at it very seriously. To destroy the rainforests is to destroy our spirituality, and from that angle, yes, I think I'm contributing from that angle. But I'd like to think that my art, what I'm producing, is not only for local people or for my own people to savor, but other people outside of the region could see what I'm doing, and hopefully that they should get some pleasure and build some interest in what I'm doing. I'd like to think that I'm producing something new, something different. I wouldn't like to spend my time doing the model, although I'd like to do a series of paintings of people that I find terribly interested, whether they're the people that I know, local people, or whether they're great people in society. But I'd like to do a series of portraits of people. But my work, I hope that I should produce something that is meaningful and worthwhile. I wouldn't like to think that my art is purely Amerindian imagery. I wouldn't like to think of it like that. I would like to think of it as a more international kind of statement, that it could, like I said early on, that it could touch people outside of the region.